Rubina, are you ready? Yes, ma, you can start. Rubina?
Start, Rubina.
Start.
Unmute me.
Go live போட்டுடுமா? Yeah.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't hear Rubina.
Now, ma'am,
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
am I audible?
Yes, ma, yes.
Yes. Good afternoon to one and all present here. I welcome you all for this online webinar on New Education Policy 2020, organized by IQAC Stella Matituna College of Education. At the outset, let us begin the program. One song can change a moment. One idea can change a world. One step can start a journey, but a prayer can change the impossible. Now, let us listen to the prayer song to invoke God's blessings.
Sound இல்ல?
Sound இல்ல.
மா, அன்னப்பிரியா சவுண்டே இல்ல. முடிஞ்சிச்சு. Yes, Rubina, you continue.
Don't wait for someone to bring you flowers. Plant your own garden and decorate your own soul. By Luther Burbank. Now, I call our principal, Dr. Mrs. Joseph Catherine, to welcome the gathering and introduce the resource person of this day. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Rubina. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm very happy to welcome our resource person, Dr. Radha Mohan, Secretary, Reverend Sister Pauline Mary, Organizing Secretary, Dr. Alma, Faculty of Stella Matituna College of Education, and all the participants. I'm extremely delighted to introduce Dr. Radha Mohan, former Professor Chinmaya Vishwadeep Ernakulam. She was also the principal from Rajalakshmi College of Education for 5.5 years and professor from Stella Matituna College of Education for 17.5 years. She has guided several MEd, MPhil and PhD students. She is a passionate teacher, an eminent editor, writer and trainer. She has published books in research, physical science and computers, and also published articles in several journals. She has also a rich experience in schools. She enjoys working tirelessly even during her post-retirement period in all types of educational initiatives and collaborations. She is an inspiration and role model for the teaching fraternity. We are privileged to have you, ma'am, today to enlighten us on the new education policy 2020. Once again, a warm welcome to all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your warm welcome. Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think, by Albert Einstein. Now it's time to invite an outstanding speaker, Dr. Mrs. Radha Mohan, to deliver the talk on the topic New Education Policy 2020. Ma'am, please take over the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. As you all know, this is my alma mater. I did my B.Ed here, M.Ed here. I have worked here, and it's like coming back home, actually. So thank you, Reverend Sister Pauline, Mary, Catherine, and Alma for inviting me. So nice of you to think of me. So it's a real pleasure. So today my topic, as you know, the past, shall I say 2 years, we have had only two topics that we have been persistently talking about. And that has been COVID, of course, the pandemic. And besides that, it was the national education policy. So any TV channel you put on, there will be 10 people discussing the NEP 2020. The pros, the cons, is it worth it, all these things. So having heard it right through the pandemic, I think I've got sort of, obsessive about it. So I've got totally involved with the National Education Policy, NEP 2020. And this particular session will focus only on mainly on teacher education. So it tells us about the impact of the NEP on teacher education. And as all of you know, you'll be reading the papers, you'll be watching the channels. Not all states have accepted the NEP 2020. When you look into it bit by bit, it seems a very difficult thing to do, but it is a felt need. So I start off. The next slide, please. So the overview here would be, what exactly is the NEP 2020 in a nutshell? And what is the rationale for introducing it? Why do we need it at all? Why not just go along with the old one? It's a nice, comfortable life. So why do we need that? And we're all teachers over here, teacher educators, B.Ed students, M.Ed students, researchers. So what is the implication that it has for schools? Because we are going to be mainly teaching in schools and colleges. So how does the NEP affect us? And what are some of the suggestions for teacher education? And what is the way forward? So this is what I'm going to cover. The next slide. Now this is many of you are students. So this is a definite question in your exam, NEP 2020. So you better sort of read it through the whole document. It's really great. So this is a landmark policy document. And in that you find it covers early childhood education, which means, now we have children going to KG, lower KG, creches, and in the rural areas you have Anganwadis. So the stress is going to be on that. And when I was working, when I was much younger years ago, we used to have early childhood care. There you will have an ayah. Ayah will look after the child. That's it. Feeding, cleaning, and doing that sort of thing. But there was not much learning. So this NEP 2020 focuses on building strong foundational skills. So foundational skills means, we used to, the Kothari Commission, as well as the other one, 1986 NPE, talks about functional skills, that is reading, writing, and literacy, and arithmetic, these three. Now this strong foundational skills covers a broader spectrum. It includes life skills, it includes communication, and various other things. So that is the stress here. Promoting multilingualism. As we know, we can't just stick with only one language. We are in a global world. And you have people, so many people going abroad, people moving to the north, people from the north coming down south. So you definitely need to know more than one language. So you have to know one more language besides your mother tongue. It could be English, it could be German, it could be Urdu, it could be anything, but something else. Then the NEP also stresses designing effective reforms. Now reforms are needed because we've got stuck in a kind of course. We are stuck in parallel lines and we're not moving out of it. We can see that because what I learned in 1981 as a B.Ed student, I was teaching as a lecturer in 1989. And when I retired, I was still more or less teaching the same thing. So it is time for change. So we need to have reforms. And this would imply that you have to establish new curricula and pedagogical structures. So that means we have to change the whole foundation of the curriculum as well as the structure on which we are building the curriculum. And in my days, it used to be arts, science, vocational, academic. Now it's not like that. They're going to integrate the whole thing. So you could do a BSc physics and you could opt. I never liked chemistry, but I had to do it. But now you could opt to do perhaps psychology. You might want to do history. You might want to do something else. So you would have a wider choice. Similarly, there is no distinction between vocational and academic. Both are equally important. So this is a landmark policy decision, and it has taken years for them to compile it. And it is now in our hands to get it through. Next slide. So this replaces the 34-year-old National Policy on Education, 1986, which is what I studied. It was being processed then. Next. Now, why do we need such a thing at all? Now, I don't need to be, you all know it, obviously, because, with the COVID hitting us like this, all of you have been taking classes online, you have been attending classes online, having WhatsApp group, doing assignments, and then, doing the whole thing online. So research indicates that we need to take steps to change teacher education to meet global standards. So this is something that had started long ago abroad, in the Scandinavian countries, in Europe, in the US, Australia. But we are now, because of COVID, we have been sort of, jump-started into this. All of us know how to use SIM cards, GPay, all of us know how to take class online, how to correct. Not me, I'm not so great at correcting online. But anyhow, most of us know how to do things online. We have to revamp the whole structure, revamp the whole program, and we have to get our teaching, teachers, teacher educators, teacher trainees, to be in sync with industry. So the one important thing is, many people think that by doing a B.Ed or an M.Ed, the only job you can get into is a teacher. So that is not so. Now, if you look around, you'll see in whether it is in monster.com or whether you look into Naukri, you'll find that a teacher can do 101 different things. Besides teaching in a class, you could also be an online teacher, you could be a technical writer, you could be a content writer in Cognizant, Infosys. You can do any number of things. You can do data analytics, because if you do the course with maths, you would be eligible for that. So that is what the industry needs. That is Industry 4.0 needs. The next slide, Alma. Why do we need these changes? Now, these changes are needed because we are on the fast track. As you can see, all of us, country itself is moving really fast. So in order to catch up with our closest rival, which is China, which is breathing down our neck, we've got to, all of us, gear up for that. So this has to be done from school onwards. We have to also tap our unique strengths, demographic dividends. Now, as you can see, you have people, demographic dividends would mean people of all ages, a splattering of people of all ages. So you have, and India has the youngest population in the world. So which means we have such a lot of raw talent which we must harness, give them such a good education that they would be able to get a good livelihood and gainful employment. So this is why the NEP 2020, basically, it wants to give us literacy, digital literacy, make us in tune with the global standards outside, and we should be able to get employment. And as I said, not necessarily as a teacher, you could be an entrepreneur, you might start a startup. Many teachers have started this startup. In fact, I think when people retire, they must start that and do something. It'll be really fun. So this is why we need to look into these changes. Next slide. Now, once again, this is not exactly education. When you look around the world at the labor market, you find that it is very complex and demanding. Now, when I passed my B.Ed and M.Ed, it wasn't such a big, what shall I say, Ramayanam. That's all I can say in my own jargon. So it is so complex and demanding. It's not just you have to communicate, you have to write. You have to be very smart in very many other ways. So that is one of the skills you should learn. And for that to happen, you have to align the education system with the changing skill requirements. I'll tell you, for example, when I was doing my M.Ed, in those days, that was 1983 or so. computers had just come into the world, into India, to the Indian world. And Rajiv Gandhi had started the class program. And all Kendriya Vidyalayas and Navodayas were equipped with BBC computers. This is when I did my PhD, 85 to 87. 1986, NPE came on. And class was, the computer literacy program was started in all these schools. So when the teachers went into the classroom, they were scared stiff. They didn't know how to handle it. So my guide, who was a very forward-looking person, she said, this is the time. We have to do something on this. So my research was among the earliest in those days on computer-aided instruction in teaching physics. And I had to go like a salesman with my own computer from school to school because they wouldn't let us touch the computers. They were so possessive. It was like a vaira adiga. They won't touch it at all. So that was the day. And now look at the day today. Everyone has a computer. Everyone has a smartphone. Everyone knows how to use everything. So you've got to align the education system so that the students get the necessary skills to be employable. And this, as you can see, it's futuristic. We don't know exactly what the future skills are because what you know today becomes old hat tomorrow. You have to learn some new skill every single day, something new button, or you have to, even now I can't get on to this. I don't know which button to press for what. So you have to keep learning. A challenging task for the education sector because you have to think of the country's economy also. So when you look at it, you could see it's digital skills, artificial intelligence. Besides, of course, all the pedagogical and curricular requirements, you will also have to know a smattering of how to use digital platforms, how to go about artificial intelligence, a little bit of data analytics. So that will get you through life, the future, because we don't know what it holds. And to develop all these skills, the government has set up a ministry for skill development and entrepreneurship. And this helps you develop the skills. Now, when you look at it, okay, next slide. So on the whole, the focus is on a progressive, flexible, multidisciplinary, technology and skill-focused education system. And you're going to get competent, creative, skilled, employable, ethical learners. Now, ethical is the important part, lacking a great deal in today's world. So as teachers, we must enforce that. Next slide. Now, the 4 C's form the crux of the NEP 2020. And these skills are critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration. Now, as a teacher or a teacher educator or a researcher, why do we need critical thinking? Now, let us assume you are a researcher and you are doing a review of literature. Now, only if you have developed the skill of thinking critically will you be able to know whether the survey of literature that you have found, is it a real thing or is it a fake? You have so much of fake news. You have so much of plagiarism. So you should be able to critically analyze and find out whether it is true or not. So as a student, as a teacher trainee, as a teacher educator, researcher, you should be able to develop critical thinking and foster it in your students. Now, creativity. Creativity is something that, I find that in the rural areas, the children are extremely creative, much more so than in the cities. Because my university in Ernakulam is in a place where Sankaracharya was born, and it's an absolute rural area. And those children, many of them are tribals actually. You'll find that they're extremely creative. They can make things with coconut palm tree leaves. They can do all kinds of things. So that sort of thinking differently and to be able to solve problems is something that we should promote in our schools. Communication. Now, generally we think communication is going yap, 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 talk, talk. It's not so. Communication is talking, of course, but it also involves emotional maturity, listening to what the other person is saying, knowing how to deal with things. So it is a two-way street, not a one-way. Like this is one way, but it shouldn't be like this. It should be two-way. And then collaboration. Collaboration is to work as a team. Now, starting from early childhood, right up till higher education, right through life, we need to be able to collaborate. So the 4 C's, critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration, form the base of the NEP 2020. Next slide. Now, this is the actual practice of 4C's, and it is amazing. You would all have read it since you're also smart digitally. Now, there was a big war about Twitter, if you remember, and they had decided to remove it from the Indian platform. It was not to be one of the platforms. So this coup came into being. Now, the advantage, this is once again creativity, collaboration, all the 4 are in this. And these 2 people, Radha Krishna and Vida Bhatka, these are the founders. They are known as entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs. And these startup entrepreneurs, what they do is they find a place where there is a whole niche, where there is a need for something, and they create that. So when Twitter was removed, people were thoroughly upset. So they brought in Coup. Now the advantage of Coup, how many of you use Coup? Any of you use Coup in your thing? No? Coup you
No,
can,
ma'am.
no, you can communicate in Tamil, you can communicate in English, not in English, in every other 11 Indian languages. So it is something for us, for India, India specific. So Coup will connect the whole of India in various languages. Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam, etc. So this is creativity at its best. It is also collaboration. It is also the other 2, communication. You're talking on Coup. And you are also, what else? Creativity. Next slide. So the overarching, the goal of this is generally the teacher and the taught, and also to create values for life skills, literacy, employment fitness. Same thing. It is a repeat right through the document. Next. And again, the aim is to make it a global superpower, to make school and college education holistic, flexible, and multidisciplinary. So that is NEP in a nutshell. It wants to move us up economically. It wants to transform us into a digital power, knowledge superpower, and we begin at schools right from the lowest level. Next. Now these are the key principles. Now one is, as you can see, that you have to be critically thinking, as I said. Again, you have to know how to tap talents of your students and how to emphasize all these understandings. Know that they learn well. You know how to use technology effectively. Community involvement. You cannot live. You are not an individual. You are part of a whole. And you should also know about equity and inclusion. I shall be telling you about that. And respect and diversity. So this is the key, the bottom line of the NEP. Next. Now we are teacher educators, and we are in the awkward position of being at the nexus between schools and universities. So we have to be in touch with what's going on with schools so that we can train our trainees. And we also should get all our degrees, diplomas, etc. from the university. So we are at the nexus, and that means we have to be able to make changes that reflect both in our school curriculum as well as in our college curriculum and university curriculum. So that means based on the school curriculum, we have to develop our B.Ed and M.Ed program. So that is a very big job for education. Next. Now this is something we all know. Now you can do a B.Ed, you can do a diploma in teacher education by, doing after the 12th standard, you go for the 2-year courses. You can do a Bachelor of Education where many of you are doing it now, 2-year courses. You can join the Regional Institute of Education after +2 and do the 4-year integrated course. Or you can join other places like Arunachal University and Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeeth, etc. Other places are there where NCT is recognized and you get your degree. The 4-year integrated course. Next. And what all of you should note is that by 2030, the minimum degree for getting a job as a teacher is a 4-year integrated B.Ed degree. So you should have done a BA, B.Ed integrated program, BSc, B.Ed, BCom, B.Ed, right through. So you will be having education from the first year onwards. And you will also be doing BA English or Maths or whatever. So this is the only degree that is going to be valid 2030 only. So it's good that you all got in now. Changing the approach, now that the national curriculum framework for teacher education is being developed. We're working on it, and that will give us the guidelines on how to go about doing all this, changing the pedagogy, changing the curriculum, how to do our training, what all to do during internship, etc. Next one. Now, this is for higher education, which involves MEd. It also involves all the degrees in the university. Now, you have to have this NEP 2020 stresses on flexibility of subjects. As I said, you can take a variety of subjects. You can take physics, you can do maths, and maybe you want to do Sanskrit. Or you can do physics, psychology, and music. So you will have that kind of a flexibility which was not there all this time. Then you have a system of multiple entry and exit. So for example, if you're doing BVOC, vocational, you could in the first year do a certificate course, might not be of a very well-off background, do a certificate course. With that certificate course, you join some travel agency work as for ticketing or something. After 1 year, you come back, do another next level. So that certificate is valid. You join the second year, and so on. You go on, get to a diploma, and finally you get to a degree. So that is multiple entry and exit, which is a very big boon for many of our students. Then you also have the facility of accumulating credits. So now you're studying, say, let us assume you're studying in Chennai Vishwavidyapeeth and you're homesick, you want to get back to Chennai. You take your credits and bring it along here and see where you can get admitted, into what course. So all your credits get transferred, provided the college that accommodates you accepts those credits. So this happens also when you want to go abroad. Now there you might need to have a certain number of credits, 4-year degree courses to do an MA there. So you can collect all these credits and transfer it to wherever you're going, whichever university you apply. It also advocates the use of technology and equity. Now, technology we already know, the whole year we've talked about it. With equity. Now, with equity is the tricky part. You find that many children in the schools lack smartphones. So they don't have access to digital technology. So that is something that each state will have to think about. Though we talk so much, getting it done is not easy. So it depends on the people more than the governments. National Research Foundation is to establish a very good culture, and there is a very long, detailed discussion on plagiarism, how that is to be avoided, how research has to be fundamental as well as applied, and it should also be have a very strong cultural base, ethically done, culturally relevant, solid. Then gender inclusion. This is another thing. Now, gender disparity is something we all know about. We have heard about it. We have experienced it probably. So this is something we are working on. Then affiliation. This affiliated to Madras University, affiliated to TNTU, all this will go on. Will come down, and each of you be your own masters. So each institution will be able to autonomous and will be able to grant the degree themselves. And there is a stress on Indian languages like Pali, Persian, Sanskrit, etc. Translation, interpretation. A whole school has been set up, and the IIT, Kharagpur, Bombay, all these have a separate department itself for this. Next slide. Now looking through what are the skills that one needs. Higher education involves teachers too, because you are higher education, you've done a degree. It includes the BEds, MEds, anyone who has passed a basic degree. So when you look through LinkedIn, you find that the skills have been identified as creativity and collaboration, which we have already talked about. persuasion, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. Now, right through school till college, we should be able to have a skill set of all these. Now, why do we need creativity? Because you can start startups, you can solve problems. You are not problem oriented, but you are solution oriented. You think of different ways of solving problems. So that is what creativity does. Persuasion. Now, persuasion is something that we must develop because the future, we do not know what the future jobs are. So, supposing I am a BSc Physics BEd, and I'm 22 years old and I'm looking for a job say 5 years from now. I don't know what job is there because the world is changing so drastically. So I should be able to talk my way, persuade the employer that yes, I'm the one you are looking for. I can adapt, I can collaborate, I will learn all the skills. So that is something we should tell our students, that along with emotional maturity is two key skills. You find now, especially in Tamil Nadu, a child fails in any EP, the results haven't come, he goes and commits suicide. So it's a lack of emotional intelligence. So you shouldn't pin your hopes like that. You should be able to see the broader picture. Then collaboration is team spirit. You should know how to work in a team. Adaptability. Adaptability because you don't know what your work environment is going to be in the future. So whatever it may be, you should be able to adapt to it. So all these are skills as you come along through school, through higher education, you should have a bundle of these skills so that you can fit into any slot that is there in the future. We don't know what the future holds. Next slide. Now that is higher education. Now let's get to school because we are at the nexus. We have to know about the higher education. We have to know about the schools. Now in schools, the key takeaways are it's aiming for 100% GER by 2030. Key takeaways are that you are going to get all the out of school children back into school. Now, why are the children out of school? They are out of school because they are working. They are working in Sivakachi, they are working in quarries, they are working in hotels, they are working as domestic servants, they are working in shoe shops. You see them everywhere, tea shops. So all these children will have to be brought back into the mainstream. And the NEP has given a lot of suggestions on how it could be done. And the system is now 12 years of schooling, 3 years of Anganwadi or preschooling. That means 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So we didn't have the 3 years of Anganwadi, that is the add-on here. Then no rigid separation. All streams are the same. It's not a great thing being in an academic stream or a vocational stream. Both are equal. Whether you become a carpenter and have a big carpentry shop or you are a physicist, doesn't matter. You're equal. Vocational education to start from standard 6, start from class 6 with internship. So this they're already doing in Kerala actually. They have carpentry, then they have pottery. All these experts come and teach these children. So from class 6 to class 8, they learn this. They work for a little while in the shops and they learn how to use their fingers. Teaching up to grade 5 in mother tongue. This is the major thing. So teaching in mother tongue has a big plus point in that the student is able to learn the concepts clearly. Whereas if you're learning it in another language, so you're learning it in English, your concepts may not be as clear as it is in your mother tongue. If you speak suppose you're speaking Tamil at home, you'll find that you learn in Tamil, you'll know the concepts of physics or chemistry or whatever much better. And once you come to the 5th standard, you can get on and learn other languages. So that is what the NEP is stressing. Next slide. So this is the same old thing again. So this is how it is going to be done. One is for elementary, the early childhood education. They're going to have of this. We'll have an Anganwadi, and there are 2 types of work. Now, all those who have passed 12th standard, many of the people are registering in the employment exchange because you get jobs as Anganwadi Ayas as well as Anganwadi teachers. So Anganwadi teachers are 12th standard pass, and it's a good job if you're in the rural areas. If you're an Aya, you're 8th standard pass. You don't teach, you just maintain health, nutrition, etc. Similarly, you have Bal Bhavans, you have literacy programs. These ayahs are also trained in foundational literacy, numeracy, etc. And then you have life skill training. Among life skill training, you will learn how to get on with others. You will learn how to, communicate, and you will learn to get on with a diverse group of people, not exactly of your kind in the real India, etc. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the learning outcomes for the teacher. So every teacher trainee should remember if she's teaching that the child, the student up to the 8th standard should be able to do all the things here. That is very simple curriculum. You'll have fun. You'll have like the SSA, that you have in many states. Then you have a good grasp and understanding of your mother tongue, and you realize and you respect diversity. Now, in this context, I'd like to tell you that I think it is in Tirunelveli, one place there, the collector of that place is a North Indian lady, and she had put her child into she was at a young child, 3 or 4 years old. She put the child in the Anganwadi, which is near the collectorate. And that child was able to get on with all these children, and after the child finished that, she moved him on to a government school because that is the best place to be. So that is where you learn diversity. You learn to get on with people. You learn your mother tongue. You learn have fun in general, and you learn soft skills. By the time they are in the 8th standard, they should be able to communicate, speak well, have tech skills, humane. Emotionally, they're growing up slowly, and they have no exams here. That is the best part, and no mugging, no rote learning. So this is what the NEP hopes to do. So the teachers have to gradually, from first standard on, try to build up all this. Unity, diversity, good understanding of the mother tongue, not to be frightened, to be empathetic, to get on with others, communicate well. Now, why this came through is when the NEP, the people who drafted it, went to the various schools. Because in several places you have automatic promotion. They go on, they are land up at the 10th standard, they can either add nor subtract, they can't do anything, they can't read. So the foundational literacy and numeracy is not there. So in order to enforce this till the 8th standard, the teacher has to ensure that every child is able to read, write, communicate, has some soft skills, is able to use the digital platform, and is able to get on with everyone. Once the child has crossed over from 8th to high school to 12th standard, it becomes more serious. Now, having gone through that, they will have good all-round health. They will be now exposed to at least one other language besides their mother tongue. It could be a foreign language, it could be another Indian language. Then they get to know about the culture of our place, and they get a good idea of the heritage of India. So they become true Indian citizens. So this is from 8th to 12th. Again, there is no mugging, so no rote learning. Next slide. Sorry, Alma.
Oh, ma'am, welcome.
Now here are the teachers. I hope none of you stick to this. So the first one, the teacher is Harris. Second one, the students are going on merrily with a coffee mug. I hope that's not the norm. And you have this poor tired lady. She puts the bomber marriage is going on. So looking through, once again, the NEP found that this is the state of the Indian teacher. Now, why this is so is, and you all know the reasons. Teachers are not so well paid. Now they are very well paid. But there was a time when teachers hardly got a ticket 5,000 rupees. After all the study and work, and you're getting 5,000 rupees, you naturally will go like a key cook the bummer. You are not going to be jumping with joy to go to work. So now, taking this into account, now what has happened is, next slide. They're going to completely overhaul the teaching profession. So that is very good news for all of us. And they're going to have a merit-based system for tenure, for salary and promotion. And they're going to give incentives recognizing outstanding teachers, whether it is research or the action research or whatever they do. So this is what is promoted. So you all have a very good chance of getting a very good career in teaching. Plus, you're going to have tenure, you're going to get salaries, you're going to be promoted and get a lot of incentives if you're good and you work hard and you are committed. Next. Now, this is from the National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration. They are planning the strategies. Now, once again, many of you may be reading the newspapers, hopefully. Now, you find that in many states, like for example, Karnataka, they have taken on this NEP, and there was a lot of fanfare, we're going to do it, we'll do this and that. But now, actually putting it to work is so difficult. So that is the operational strategies are what is the crux of the matter. So we have to be very careful how we carry out this transfer. Now I've taken a small example. How do you put in vocationalization? They are talking about vocationalization from 6 to 8 and skill development. So for that, the NIEPA has suggested that first of all you have to map it. You find out what it is that you want. Say you take coding. Now coding is something for which people are easily employable. Now once you get coding, you understand what are the skills that are needed. Then you look around and find out whether it is recognized in the national skill development. They have a list of things. So you find out whether it is one of that. Then you can look out for a teacher for that. See that the students get trained and see that they get a certificate. So it has this whole process. You have to map it. Now, supposing in Tamil Nadu or you have 4 or 5 colleges get together and you have workshops on this, then you will have to sit down and think of what is it in that area, what is the skill that is needed there, how do you go about mapping it, who are the people who could do it, what is the recognition that is needed for it, how do you see that the student has passed or whatever, got the skill and give the certificate. So that is the circle you'll have to go through for everything, every skill that you do. Next slide. So we as teachers shape the future of our children and therefore the future of our nation. There is no doubt on that. They are in our hands. We have to mold them and we have to be responsible to do a good job of that. Next. Now this is a wonderful example. You might have read about it. Now there is a competition conducted by the UNESCO on giving a global award for the best teacher. Now this is conducted by with Varki in the UAE and the UNESCO. So last year the award went to this gentleman, Singh. Now this one, he actually started his life. He's a teacher. He started his life working with in this Jilla Parishad in Maharashtra, and he was working with tribal girls. And he found that in the tribal area there, many places in tribal areas, you'll find that the girls are not let out. Once they reach puberty, they won't be sent to school. So he did a little study over there and he found that the girls were not coming to school. So he went from house to house and checked out, and he found that it was not only that, the thing was that particular hamlet was in Maharashtra, but the tribals spoke Kannada. So they did not understand what was going on in the curriculum. So this gentleman took the trouble to learn Kannada, translated all the textbooks from Marathi to Kannada, and all the girls were able to cope. Many of them are now employed. So he did it single-handed. He introduced digital learning tools for them, got computers and iPads, smartphones at his own expense, being a Jilla Parishad teacher. And he has also done a lot of environmental projects. So that last year he got the award. Now this year, once again in the global thing, out of 8,000 entries, 2 entries have been Indians, 2 are in the 50, top 50. One is in Bhagalpur or somewhere, another in Hyderabad, and both of them for teaching English. Imagine in the COVID time they have done it. So we are hoping that they get the award this year too. So you as teachers can definitely make a difference. You just have to put your soul into it and want to make a difference. It's not just the pay, sitting down and getting a fat pay. No. Having been born in this world, you've got to make a difference to at least 10 people in the world. No? So let's see the next slide now. Now this is another place. NEP, one of the concept is that in a school, we should have children from all backgrounds. So I said 2 crore children have to come back to school. That means you're going to get children from the queries, etc., who have dropped out. So for that, you have a thing called National Open Schooling, NOS. So this Tattva Learning Center, which is in Kochi, there's one in Chennai also. They have a school in which they have children like that who come, NOC. Then you have the CBSE curriculum also follows. You also have a school which follows the IG, this international baccalaureate, that's also. And you have a state board school all in the same premises. So what happens here? You have children who are, from a diverse background. So all of them are dealt with by these teachers. Now all of you are going to become teachers. So if you are already are teachers, so you might be teachers in this kind of center. So you can imagine the amount of skills you should have. You should have empathy, you should care, you should know the subject, you should be able to teach various kinds of children. You have include children with special needs, you should be able to deal with them. So that is what teaching is today. Next slide. Now we are always talking about soft skills, preparation for our children in school. Now soft skills does not mean softly. It means you have to know how to manage your time, how to communicate effectively, how to listen to the other fellows, how to work as a team, how to resolve conflict. So it has a whole lot of dimensions here. So the school child from the first standard till the 8th should have developed a little bit of this, coming to school on time, getting on with others, listening to what the other fellow says. So all this is what has to be fostered. And teaching students to celebrate failure. This is something we have all these helplines, Neha, etc. and all. But each child should have the emotional strength to deal with failure. You need not always be getting the gold medal. You need not always get into the IIT. You don't get in, so what? You can do something else. So the child should be geared for that. Prepared to take failure. Failure is only a stepping stone for the success. And the child should also be exploring developing technology. That we don't have to tell them. They do it themselves. They're very smart with digital anything. They are able to, even repair things that we can't do. And bringing experiential learning to the forefront. So they have to learn by doing. They have to experience the thing. So that is where vocationalization comes in. You learn. Next, gender sensitivity. Now, this is something that we have been talking about for the last 50, 60 years. I don't know how sensitive we are to all this gender sensitivity. Because, when you travel in a bus, very few men will get up for a lady. I don't know how, now that I'm old, everyone stands up. They're very nice. But in my younger days, we had to stand with all our luggage while the men were sitting merrily. So we need to be sensitive to that. But there should be no gender disparity. Now, when you go for a job, both are equal. So if both are equally qualified, you have to have some kind of method of finding out who is better. Based on, not on the basis of gender, but on performance. Teacher education at in-service level as well as pre-service level should foster this gender sensitivity and see that there is no gender disparity. For example, when you're in school, you just say, you clap your hands, come on, boys, stand in line, girls, go this side. That's the gender disparity. I myself have done it when I was working in a poor school. Similarly, then you have, I have a maid in Coimbatore, and she's got a very good percentage in school. But her parents have preferred to educate the brother, who's got very low marks, instead of her. So that is gender insensitivity. So that's the kind of thing we have to avoid. And we have to see that our children in our schools and colleges are aware of this happening. Next slide. Inclusive. Next. Now I assume all of you know what inclusive education is. It means that we have children from all kinds of children. And when I don't know how many of you watched the Olympics. Now the Paralympics, you'd find the special, it showed how wonderful it was. So many of them won gold medals and bronze medals. And many of them are going to compete in the ordinary Olympics in the next round. So which shows that inclusive education has very many benefits. If a child is brought up to accept that another child may not be just like him, right from lower levels onwards, you find that he's more empathetic. He also is able to see the other person's point of view and realizes that other people have different strengths. For example, a child who may be hearing impaired might be very good at drawing. Similarly, a child who is visually impaired, you find they're very good with music. So in an inclusive classroom, you'll find the normal children will be able to appreciate that. Initially, it will be difficult for the teacher. So as teachers working in inclusive classrooms, you have to be really very particular. Next slide. This is a key thing. This is something I wish Stella Matutina would do. Alma, Catherine, please do something about this. Happiness and teacher education. Now, happiness is a construct, which is, we all want to be happy, all of us. And the Delhi government actually initially started this. They found that many of the school children in the government schools were unhappy. They did a study on that, and after going through a lot of research in their diet, they found out that happiness could be fostered in the children. So they sent their teachers and their people to Netherlands, the Scandinavian countries, where the children, especially Finland, they're very happy. They learned a few techniques, devised a curriculum, and they have tried it out in Delhi. And the children have not only got happier, they have also got their schools to be, parents to be happier. So many universities like Lucknow, Mumbai have included this, and it would be great if Stella Matutina included happiness curriculum as an elective, perhaps in BMN. Next slide. So the changes that is envisaged by the NEP is recognize the power of the teacher. So you are the power behind the throne. You have to bring the children up. Restore the high respect and status. This we do by the pay that we are going to get, by the tenure, by the medals, etc. Then drafting the curriculum framework so that we know exactly what to do, whether we are in free service or in service. Then this is a new thing that's going to come up, especially where you have colleges which don't have education departments. They're going to start multidisciplinary universities where you have BEd. You can do a BA in philosophy and a BEd in collaboration with other departments. Then you have shorter BEd courses, just like in the vocational training. I said first year certificate, second year better certificate, then diploma, then degree. So you get things like that. Similarly, if you are working, you want to become a headmaster or something, then you can do courses leading to leadership. Next slide. You also have teacher eligibility tests. So depending on where you want to teach, whether it is higher secondary, middle school, preparatory, you will have tests wherein you can qualify and get very good jobs. And this is for the vocational, traditional arts, etc. We are not going to know much about this. So we have to hire the local experts in whichever area you live to teach them the crafts, maybe, local art, pottery, kathakali, whatever it is that you want to teach, even embroidery, etc. Yeah. Next slide. Now, these are the questions that you should think about as teachers. What is the change that you're going to bring? Envisage in pre-service training, just note it down and you can discuss with your colleagues and devise. If you're autonomous, you can definitely bring it into your curriculum changes when you present it to your board of studies. What are the changes?
Ma'am, we are not able to hear you. Ma'am? Excuse me, ma'am. Brother,
Yeah,
ma'am.
sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Sorry,
yes.
I must have touched something.
Yeah.
So ask teacher educators, what changes can you bring in pre-service education to prepare children for nascent jobs, such as the jobs of the future? Now, for example, in pre-service training, what is it that you're going to do? So what I have done in CDV is, because we have 2 years now, and when the children pass out, they're doing a BSc B.Ed or a BA B.Ed, BA English B.Ed or a BSc Maths B.Ed. Now, the thing in today's world is data analytics. You also have to be very smart in using all this Microsoft various tools that they have. So you have online a lot of these courses which you can make your students do. You can make them join Coursera. There's a thing called Coursera. There are jobs in Udemy. You have Swayam courses and so many of these things. So that for the future they have a whole set of things. But you don't know what job they're going to get, so they'll be ready for that. So like that, you have to brainstorm with your group and think of what can be included in your curriculum. Next slide. Next thing you should think about is how would you get rid of, what are the things you would use? What strategies would you use for reducing gender disparities? Now that is as teacher educators to your teacher training. But for example, in Stella Matutina, we're all ladies, girls there. So that doesn't exist. But our girls should be trained how to deal with it when they go to the school. So how are you going to do it? When they go to, say, a corporation school, how are they going to deal with it? What is it that you're going to teach them so that they know how to deal with it? Gender disparity. It should be part of the curriculum once again. Next, question 3 would be, what would you suggest for social group disparities? Now this is in Tamil Nadu particularly full of caste politics. Now how do you get rid of this? As teachers, we are trying to get equity in everything. We just talk about it, we write books about it, but do we follow it? We don't. So we have to think of methods by which we are able to get rid of this disparity, social group, and also how do we deal with inclusion of children? What is it you teach your teacher training when they have an inclusive classroom? Fourth one, last question. And what are the activities you would include in happiness curriculum? Now this is a very debatable thing because first you should know what attributes of happiness are. It is not ha 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 laughing all the time or joy or anything. It is just an inner feeling. So how you first define it and then think of activities. So Alma, I expect to see that in your curriculum next when you devise it.
Yes, ma'am.
Next.
Already one PhD candidate is doing this with the questionnaire on. Yes, happiness. My one student is doing. Yeah.
It's a very good thing, ma'am.
Yes.
Next one. Next slide. Now, what so far, it's about 12, 13, 14 months down the lane. What is it that's happened so far? Now, you find that in pre-service teacher education, there has been upgradation. A lot of these universities or autonomous colleges have changed the curriculum to keep in time, tune with the changing times. You have the credit system, transfer of credits. At least I saw it in most of the universities in Kerala. Then, because of the COVID, all of us have become very familiar with MOOC, Masters Open Online Courses. You have edX courses, you do courses on that, you do Swayam courses. So a lot of people are doing this. For example, if you want to teach ICT in the B.Ed course, there is a Swayam course which caters to that. And it has 3 credits. So which means you save that much time for 3 credits and you can do something else in that time. Upskilling. So every day you keep learning. Whether it's a teacher educator, teacher trainee, whoever, you have to keep up to date. And the teachers have to go frequently for in-service training. And this is happening. So all these things are taking place. Next slide. So this is my last slide. So this is something that I was very impressed by. TV Kattimani. He is a vice chancellor of, I think, in Andhra Pradesh, Central Tribal University or something. The success or failure of NEP 2020 is in the hands of teachers and not the politicians or the government. So we can't blame. We have no one to blame but ourselves if this fails. So I think we should just get by and get to work at once. That's it. Thank you. Last slide. I think it's thank you. I hope it is. Yeah, thank you. So thank you so much. I look forward to any questions you may have.
Thank you, ma'am, for enriching by your valuable information. The smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention.
Rubina,
Yes,
Rubina,
ma'am.
1 minute.
Yes, ma'am.
If the students are allowed to ask questions, just wait.
Can you stop sharing? Maybe I can see the students.
Yes, ma'am, I'm just trying here. Yeah, yeah.
Nice to see faces. Yeah, any
Ma'am,
question?
yeah, we have introduced data analytics in education paper.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes,
Really.
ma'am.
So you're waiting for maths, is it?
For MHs as well as MPhils, this data analytics in education. So
Very good.
we have made the curriculum to be like that, including all our, as you say, this old wine in the new bottle. No?
So
Like
that's
that we
great.
have. Yeah.
Wonderful, really. So now,
Yes. Venda, wait panna. Ma'am, the live stream is on.
oh my.
I will send you the link, ma'am. Students can ask questions. Annapriya? Annapriya is there?
Ma'am, good evening, ma'am. I have a question to Dr. Radha Mohan.
Yeah.
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am. I'm a new. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
I know the new policy of education has a lot of positive aspects, but when it comes to the division in the schooling system, 5+3+, with the introduction of, this vocational, skills development, somehow I have an apprehension that students hailing from rural first generation learners, students do not have scope, first parents who have not educated, first generation learners, and they do not have scope at home, of learning or getting input or support from others. The students will get stuck. They will not have the opportunity to pursue higher education. That's my fear. So what have you to say?
Yeah, that is a very, realistic fear actually. That is why that a lot of work has to be done. So now they have these Anganwadi teachers, will be 12th standard pass teachers. So they will have to sit down there. They will be rural people living in the area itself. So that is, ideal, where they will be able to interact with the students and see that they learn. Because many of them in the, rural areas have parents who are drunk or parents are working as laborers. You don't have anyone to teach them. So these Anganwadi teachers will have to sit down and do it. So that is how the training is going to be. They are planning it actually. This is a very real fear. And also they're going to demarcate and Anganwadi teachers, Anganwadi ayahs, and there are going to be these who are in charge of nutrition, health, and training the child as such, and those who teach. But then one good thing is, since they are learning in their mother tongue, they will be able to understand better. It's better than learning in English when you have no one at home who speaks English. Now, what's the point? So they have to hope. They have to hope for the best. And you're going to make the difference. You will be a Mary.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Students? Annapriya is there?
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Rubina.
Yes, ma'am. The smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention, by Oscar Wilde. Now I call Dr. Sister Irudia Mary, Assistant Professor of English, to propose the vote of thanks. Sister, please.
Thank you, Rubina ma'am. Good evening to respected sister, the dignitaries on the dais, and my dear colleagues. Good evening to everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank God for blessing us to have this webinar a successful one. I deem it my pleasure and honor to thank the resource person, Dr. Radha Mohan, for being with us on this webinar, who explored in detail the NEP 2020 on the key aspects of policy of education. Thank you, ma'am, for highlighting on the points such as the essence of developing a strong foundation skills in the education scenario, the significance of imbibing the multilingual language culture, designing effective and meaningful reforms in the education sector, establishing new curriculum and integrating arts and science to accelerate the growth and development of economy. Adding, emphasized on the development of crust elements of NEP 2020, that is the 4 C's: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication, which the education must result on. With that, the inclusion of gender, equity, and inclusive education, and left us with a few thought-provoking questions. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your knowledge with us. Needless to say, it was indeed an edifying and inspiring address. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. My sincere thanks to Reverend Sister Pauline Mary, the Secretary, a driving force behind every activity of Stella Margherita College of Education, who keeps motivating the staff and students community towards quality improvement of the scholastic and post-scholastic activities. Indeed, the institution is blessed to have such a dynamic personality as Secretary. Thank you, sister, for your accompaniment in all the endeavors of the institution and your inspiring motivation. Thank you, sister. I would like to thank and acknowledge Dr. Joseph Catherine, the principal, who plans the entire academic activities of the institution towards the effective function and quality education and that of teaching learning process. Thank you, ma'am, for your constant support that enables each of the faculty and student community to organize the teaching learning process effectively. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us and for your support. I would like to thank Dr. Arma, the IQAC coordinator and the organizing secretary of the webinar, for choosing the apt personality for the webinar. Thank you, ma'am, for being there. My sincere thanks to all the teaching faculty members, the MEd scholars, and the students of B.Ed for being at the webinar, for your presence. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for being.
Thank you,
Ma'am, thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
It's been
much.
a pleasure. My old
Thank you, ma'am.
home.
It was nice.
Yeah, ma'am, it
It
was
really
nice. It was really nice, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Students, you will be given a feedback form which you will have to fill it up. I think Annapriya ma'am will send you the feedback forms, and all the students have to fill in the feedback forms, right? Yes, I think you have a WhatsApp group. In that it will be posted, and all are expected to do the students are expected to fill the forms. 2 forms will be given to you. You have to fill in the forms. Is it okay, Annapriya? I don't get you at all. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.